Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. It's Terry, your host. So I'm going to dispense with any pleasantries today. I'm not going to do any history or, geography or whatever. I'm still here in Springfield, Missouri. I guess that's the geography part, maybe. But have you ever been so angry about something that you didn't even want to vent about it? I mean, that's kind of where I am, but I also feel like, someone's got to call out bullshit. Someone's got to call out fuck ups. And, and I know that I'm not alone on this. And the reason I know is because I actually talked to other truck drivers. So I want to just mention Richie Rich did a video the other day where he talked about, companies to start with, companies to have your career at. And, he opined that starting at Stevens Transportation was the best idea. I can't say, I agree or disagree because I never worked at Stevens. And then he says, but then coming to Prime, it's a good move once you've got some experience, etc. And I don't disagree with that, but let me say that I was talking to somebody another Prime driver the other day, and I said, a lot of people talk about good companies and bad companies, but I just really think that the words good and bad are, they're totally subjective, but they're also ambiguous, right? And, Prime is just a company, right? If a company is good for somebody, that's cool. Like if people are like, oh, I feel like this company's the best fit for me, then it's a good company for them, but it doesn't mean it's a good company, right? And like when I was doing my stuff about US Express, people are like, oh, this is a great company to work for. And I pointed out to them, I said, I'm not talking about whether or not you're happy there. I'm talking about the fact that they got a butt ton of debt and they're headed for bankruptcy. I mean, they're not now because KNX is buying them out. But my point is that no company is a good company. No company is a bad company unless it does like it's corporate policy to break the law. And, some companies actually have been like that over the years. But anyway, and here's why I say this. I want to just walk you through my last few days. So I did have a trainee on the truck. He was on the truck for a total of 10 days. And when I got here to Springfield, I dropped him off and most of his shit because he didn't get all his shit out of the truck, but whatever. I dropped him off at the Campus Inn. Call me crazy, but I demand that trainees be willing to read road signs and not blame me when they don't. I demand that trainees, work their own shift. There's a million things I could talk about, but and we got off to a bad start. He was upset with me that I didn't come to pick him up as soon as he wanted. Because he was in Maryland and I was in Illinois. So that was probably a red flag right there. But so best of luck to him, and hopefully he'll get trained. And honestly though, he's definitely one of those trainees that's like, I don't care what this turns out like, I want to get my own truck, right? So he's not doing 50,000 because he was very interested in how far we would go every day, but he wasn't interested in learning a lot. So he just wanted to drive a truck down the road and pile up miles. And it's kind of funny because the last person that I kicked off my truck, and you recall I did a video about that, she was the same way. she had been with a different driver, and she was like, oh, well, why don't, I'll drive my shift, you drive yours. I don't need you in the passenger seat. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. Like, and I'm pretty sure her first trainer, that's how he rolled. He didn't give a shit. But he only cared when he quit making money with her on the truck, and then he was like, adios, And that is a concern right now, but it's not the primary concern. I just don't want to be with somebody where the relationship's strained constantly because, and literally he said to me, I'll drive the speed I'm comfortable, which to him actually meant going faster than I said I wanted him to. Like I would say set the cruise at 60. Not because I think he can't drive 65 and handle it, although, that was he was a little bit shaky there, but because I just want to go 60, right? I'm paying for the fuel, and we weren't in a hurry. That's the other thing. For 10 straight days, I got a diet of basically loads I could have done on my own, and that was maybe the straw that broke the camel's back, because last week I got like $531, but he cost me $1,300. But like I said, that wouldn't have been enough if he was cooperative and pleasant and easy to work with. So anyway, so I drop him off on Friday, and my plan was to pick up my truck on my new truck is here on the yard, and my plan was to pick it up today, and then get all my stuff transferred over, and then tomorrow turn in the truck I'm in. But then once he was off the truck, I was like, well, I got nothing to do here. So I was like, all right, I'll just run a load, and then if I have to push back picking up my truck and turning in my truck by a day or so, at least I'll make some money. So I make myself available, and I get a load, and it says there's this big range for the load, but it's default, right? It's not a spot trailer load. It's default with a big freaking range, and it's picking up at Tyson in Edwardsville, Kansas. So I'm like, I send a message to dispatch. I'm like, is this load a live on load? And they're like, yeah. And I said, okay, because there's this huge window, And they're like, well, I would just get up there as soon as I could, because you're probably gonna have to wait in line to get loaded. Well, when I leave here is part of my trip planning, right? Because if it's a drop and hook and there's a window, I can delay my departure. And in fact, I would probably want to delay my departure because it's a Tyson load. But instead, I finished up what I was doing, got a shower, and left. So I get up there, and they're like, oh, hey, and the directions were kind of wrong, but whatever, it wasn't a huge deal. But then I was like, they're like, okay, you're gonna have to go back down the street and go to this other gate, and then you're gonna drop your trailer in there. And I'm like, oh, well, this is I got a live unload, like I'm saying it with confidence, right? Because I've already talked to dispatch. And she's like, well, you still got to go down there. So I go down there and I talk to this other lady, and I said, hey, this is supposed to be a live unload, and because she was telling me to drop my trailer. And so I said, well, this is a live unload. She's like, no, it's not. She goes, Prime does no live unloads at this location. It's only drop and hook. Okay, fine. And I wasn't upset with her. She was straight with me. But then she tells me, yeah, and your load's not ready. So now I'm up basically Kansas City, Kansas, right? I've already started my clock, and my load's not ready. So I drop the trailer, I bobtail down the street, go back in the other gate, and I get instructions from that lady, and go inside. Well, it turns out my load is ready, but again, I wouldn't have left. So I send a message to dispatch. I'm like, hey, this isn't a live unload. It's a drop and hook. Well, then dispatch says, and this is where I'm going with all this. I am sick to death of people at Prime, and I'm talking about people that aren't drivers. I'm talking about everybody else, and you'll see how it involves everybody else here if you stick with me. I'm sick to death of people passing the buck. Nobody wants to fucking own anything at this company. Nobody. Maybe Robert Lowe does, but nobody below him wants to own anything. So dispatch, their response to me when telling them that sales fucked this up, basically, because sales did, and I'll tell you why I know that in a second, is, well, we can only go based on what the customer tells us. So blame the fucking customer because some idiot at sales couldn't, hit the right keystrokes on the dispatch, right? Tyson didn't type up that dispatch information, right? And they didn't review it for quality. Sales did. And the reason I know that somebody at sales fucked up is because the driver that I talked to there, totally cool dude, gave him a Tim Travels t-shirt because he watches the channel. He had the same problem, right? His dispatch said live unload. He planned his trip, and lo and behold, it's a drop and hook. Now, somebody might say, well, why are you complaining about a drop and hook? I'm not complaining about a drop and hook. I'm complaining about the fact that we can't get accurate information, and then when somebody gives us shitty information, won't own it. Have you ever talked to night or weekend dispatch? Two standard answers. You'll have to talk to your fleet manager on Monday or tomorrow or whatever. And the other is, I'll check with sales. That's always passing the buck, right? It almost never is a night dispatcher willing or able, but mostly willing to help, right? They're just like sloughing it off, right? Sloughing it off. And so, again, oh, it's the shipper's fault, right? It's Tyson's fault. Well, I don't think it was, right? Because the people at this location seemed pretty squared away. They had paperwork in order. They knew where stuff was going. And that's my experience at most Tyson places. You might have to wait for a load to get put in a trailer, but most of the time, stuff's squared away, right? They got the right seal numbers, all that stuff. So anyway, I pick up the load, and I'm like, all right, I'm just, excuse me, I'm just going back to Springfield because I got some time on my hands because this load was a 2-stop load, and it didn't have to be delivered till this morning, Tuesday morning, in Alabama. So I was like, well, if I drive back to Springfield, I can do some stuff that I want to do, just be comfortable, relax on Sunday, and then get up really early Monday morning, like 2 a.m., and head out. Then I can drive several hours without a lot of traffic. I can get down to like northern Mississippi, maybe even northern Alabama, in like an 8-hour shift, and then stop for the night, and then get up in the morning and go the other 100 miles or whatever to the first stop, right? And even be there a little early. So that was my trip plan. But so I get here, and I know what you're gonna say. Well, you were an idiot for going to the terminal. I can hear Lyle saying that to me right now. But I was like, I got plenty of time, man. Even worst case scenario, I'll still be able to get, I'll still be there 28 hours, right? Because I got here about 10 o'clock Saturday night. So I get here about 10 o'clock, and they're like, oh, this trailer needs service, so just drop it in the yard. I'm like, okay. So I drop it in the yard. And then the next day, so on Sunday, like Sunday afternoon around 4-ish, I call the trailer shop and I'm like, hey, have you finished with this trailer? And they're like, no, we don't have a deadline on that till 0700. Let me see what's going, meaning 700 Monday morning or 5 hours after I want to leave. So I said, well, he said, well, this thing only needs a trailer inspection. And I'm like, yeah, like, he goes, that could have been done in inbound. But let me tell you what happened in inbound. So I go there, and this kid, I'm pretty sure he did all the inspection steps, but he didn't know what the fuck he was doing, right? He says, I kid you not, and I've never had this happen. I said, hey, I want 50 gallons in the truck, right? And I want the reefer filled because it was on continuous run. So he takes my card. I'm just sitting there, vegging. He comes back to me and he says, hey, boss. Like, I'm not really his boss, because if I was, what was about to happen would never have happened. But he says, hey, boss, I got to go do something else. You're going to have to watch that pump to make sure that it gets shut off at 50. I'm like, huh? So he just leaves, right? And the hoses are hooked up to the truck and everything. So I'm like, okay, so I get out, and then I realize he didn't even turn the pump on, right? So I turn the pump on, I pump my 50 gallons into my left tank, right? I had to put the right side away. And, I don't know how he was gonna tell if the tanks were even, but whatever. So I put the right hose away, then I finish my 50 gallons in the left tank. I put the cap on that, and then I go back and I fill the reefer. And then he says, oh, well, do you want me to do it? Then by that time he's come back. Do you want me to do another transaction so you get credit for the reefer fuel? And I was kind of tired, and I was a little under the weather, and I was like, I don't give a fuck, right? It's like 13 gallons or whatever. I don't even care. So I pull in, I go get the truck and trailer washed, and I drop the trailer. So that following afternoon, I call, and the guy said, yeah, it could have been done in inbound. He goes, that trailer doesn't even need to come in the shop. I'm like, okay, so I can just pick it up when I'm ready to go. And he's like, yeah, get it done in outbound. Okay, so guess what happens? I get up early in the morning. Again, I didn't feel hot. I didn't feel great, but I was like, all right, I'm just gonna get on the road and drink a bunch of Diet Coke. I'll feel better. So maybe take an antihistamine. So I get up, I go where I had left the trailer, can't find it. I call the tractor shop. Hey, where's this trailer? Oh, we just brought it in. I was like, why? The other guy said, and it's like no one at Prime talks to each other. I'm like, why? The other guy said it didn't need to go in. He's like, well, what's it in here for? I said annual inspection. He's like, oh yeah, that could have been done in outbound. I said, when are you going to be finished with it? Well, we got a deadline on this, is 0700. I'm like, what the fuck, right? Like, why is it going to take, like, let me do the math here, 28 plus 5. Why is it going to take 33 hours to get a damn trailer inspected, right? And by the way, on Saturday, there was not one damn empty that was roadworthy on this entire lot where there's like 300 fucking trailers, right? I had to go over to Kraft to get one. And oh, by the way, that one had maintenance issues because it popped up on my messages, okay? And so he's like, well, I can't speak to that. Driver lineup is the one that does those times, based on when you got to deliver. So I call driver lineup. I'm like, why the fuck is this going to take 33 hours? He's like, well, it's based on when you got to deliver. I said, oh, so you're trip planning for me now because I want to leave, but I can't. He's like, no, I don't do trip planning for you. I'm like, yeah, you do. Because you're basically like, I want to leave, but I can't. I can't take the load with me. He's like, well, you'll have an entire drive shift to deliver. It's not due till 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'm like, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning is drop number 2. That's the 90, you dumbass. It's got a 02 on it also. And I said, and this is for something that could have been done in inbound or outbound. Oh, well, I'm not in charge of the guys on inbound and outbound. I'm like, well, you set the time. He goes, well, we can't get anybody to work in our shops. That's why we're so short-handed. I'm like, why the fuck is that my problem? I mean, it is. And now, you know, the fact that Prime can't hire enough people is affecting my trip plan. So I was just so sick of everybody pointing fingers at everybody else that I was like, you know what, dude? Fuck it. You want a trip plan? Then you haul the fucking load. So I drove over there at dark 30 and I just dropped my bills off. And then I said, you know what? You can just cut my lock off the trailer. He goes, you don't want to go over to the trailer shop and get it? I'm like, fuck no. And he's like, well, what should I make your PTA? I said, lose my fucking number. So he ended up making it for like December 23rd of this year. So, you know, so today, you know, I didn't haul that load. You know, my fleet manager, he doesn't ask me anything other than, well, when do you want to get loaded? Now, I guess he doesn't know, or, well, I don't know if he knows, because whenever you send a message to dispatch, they don't fucking read messages. Like it's just mind-boggling to me. In the military, right, if you send a message to a ship or to a command or to a unit, like that gets passed down. But these fleet managers, they don't know what the fuck happened the night before. They have no goddamn idea. Why? Because there's no system in place. Everybody's, you know, just like, as soon as they get up from their desk and leave, it ain't their problem. But how is that being a manager? Or maybe it is being a manager and that's why they don't call them leaders. So anyway, this morning, I don't even respond to my fleet manager because I don't, you know, he's not paying any attention to what's going on. So I send a message to RA asking for the maintenance records on my truck. And what happens? Oh, well, you know, you should go to Success Leasing for those. I'm like, why? You don't have them? You're fucking RA. And he's like, well, it would be really hard for me to pull those up. I'd have to pull them up one at a time. But they could do it for you, and it'd probably be a lot quicker. Probably. They could. Like, these are all qualifying words. They're words that weak people use. You know, when I used to have sailors and I'd be like, hey, what's the status of this? Is it fixed? And they'd be like, well, it should be, Chief. I'm like, yeah, no shit, it should be. That's why I was asking you about it. Is it? Is it fixed? Right? I don't want to know should be, could be, might be. They might be able to do something for you. Right? I want some definitive answers, right? That's what quality people provide. And if they can't give you a quality answer, they find out and get back to you. So then I got to call frickin' Success because Road Assist, you know, your maintenance advisor, doesn't actually know the maintenance history of my truck. Because even though it's in his fleet. So I call there and the gal is like, well, you know, I know how to do one part of that, but I don't know how to do the other that you're asking. So you're going to have to talk to Stuart. But Stuart doesn't answer his phone. I called twice. I left him a voicemail. I'm not sure if I'll get any resolution without going up there. And I'm just, you know, this whole like weekend has been a microcosm of what's wrong with pretty much all of corporate America. You got a lot of weak-ass, weak-minded people in positions of management or, quote, leadership that don't know how to manage or lead. They don't want to own shit. They just want to blame their subordinates for stuff. And like I told the other driver I was talking to at Tyson, I guarantee you, if anything goes wrong, no one at Prime will ever have your back. Ever. Not your fleet man, nobody. You could be the most profitable driver in the whole damn outfit, and you make one mistake and they will fucking throw you under the truck. They will not for a second back you up or support you. And if they do, and if it seems like it, it's only because they're worried about litigation. But they will never have your back for any reason. And why? Because they're a company. That's not a bad company. It's not a good company. It's just a company. All these people want to do is sit in front of a keyboard, click clack for 8 hours and log off. And it doesn't matter if you're in extremis, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, it doesn't matter if you're stranded, nothing matters, right? It doesn't matter if they didn't get you home on time. They don't care. Why? Hell, my fleet manager, he's home every night, he's home every day, he's working from home today, right? Like, I mean, I don't need a super relationship with him, but like these people don't even come to the office most of the time. And, that's cool, except I'd like to work remotely. I'd like to sit in my truck in my driveway and virtually deliver loads. So anyway, if you got this far, thanks for listening to my rant. But, I really do want people to know that you're on your own, right? It's every man, every woman for themselves, right? Like, the only help you're going to get is from other truck drivers. You can't count on your company for anything. And, and maybe part of the reason is that they know that they can't count on their superiors. Like, the chain of command around here is non-existent. Like, I got a bunch of photos on the website, but it's people that have been here for years and years and years. They all talk and think the same. They have no new ideas. They're doing shit the same way they did it 30 years ago. And because they've been around for 50 years, they think, they're immune to it. But here's the thing, right? Growth is not a good thing if you can't manage it. And right now, Prime really sucks at managing growth. Every terminal is overrun with broken equipment and equipment that's just sitting there for days and weeks. And they haven't come up with a plan. I mean, I'll probably do another video and talk about a plan I got. I mean, it's never going to get implemented because it's kind of innovative. But, I've run maintenance, in an industrial environment, including, shipyard overhauls and stuff, right? This shit is easy. It's the same thing. These are not, the trucks are sophisticated, but it isn't like it's a freaking side-looking, towed sonar array either. The technical issues are not that great, but they still haven't cracked the code. I went on Prime's website to see how many positions were open. They got dozens and dozens and dozens of mechanic positions open at every terminal. I think Pittston's probably the one that's in the best shape. But yeah, so it's like they haven't even said, they're like, oh, we think we're paying plenty of money. Their compensation system is clearly not what the market wants, right? And that's what I'm saying, going back to, they do things like they did 30 years ago. And they are not good at managing growth. They just want to keep bringing in truck drivers. They want to keep buying trucks. They got a bunch of trailers from this, trucks and trailers from this other company that they bought, and they can't manage it. They're drinking from a fire hose, and no one in the Crystal Palace has said, hey, maybe we should turn down the water volume on this so we can get control. They haven't done that. So anyway, have a good day. Talk to you soon. Bye.